A Tennessee woman who was denied an abortion despite having a fatal fetal abnormality says that the state's anti-abortion laws ended up resulting in her losing an ovary and a fallopian tube, jeopardizing her future reproductive capability. This is 34-year-old Breanna Cecil, and she is an example of the obvious, necessary, predictable consequences of the anti-abortion laws that have been passed in states across America since Donald Trump killed Roe v. Wade. In her particular case, she said that she has not felt the same since her doctor told her back in January of last year that her fetus was diagnosed with acrania, a fatal condition where the fetus has no skull bones. When the doctor told her that the fetus was not viable outside the womb, she was left with only asking the doctor what she should do, and she obviously did not have many options, particularly being in Tennessee because of their law. The near total abortion ban in Tennessee prevents anyone from getting an abortion if there's still a heartbeat, which her fetus still had. Now, many of you might think, well, there's no skull, the fetus can never survive. What does it matter if the fetus has a heartbeat? And I think that's a great question. I've been asking that question for some time. What exactly is the moral significance of a heartbeat if it has no relationship to viability or anything like that? They won't answer that. They've landed as a movement on the heartbeat as being like a symbol of something. And if you think about something having a heartbeat, well, maybe you'll feel something for it. And can we win the argument then? But it certainly didn't help her in this case, and so she was denied an abortion as a result of that. The law makes no exceptions for fatal conditions and also criminalizes physicians who perform the procedure outside of the allowed exceptions. So maybe there's something that a doctor could have done, but all of them were terrified of being thrown in prison for helping her out of this horrific situation that she was in. So to make a long, terrible, tragic story short, she eventually had to get an abortion. That was necessary. She couldn't do it there and she couldn't do it promptly, which means that she had to wait. She had to go to literally a couple dozen places desperately looking for an abortion, and she ended up getting one, although she had to go all the way to Illinois. And so she did end up having that. But what appears to have happened is that because of the long wait and complications that came about as a result of the fetal abnormalities, she ended up having very serious consequences. She had a 9-centimeter sized abscess in her abdomen that encompassed some of her reproductive organs. Some of this had to do with fetal tissue that was left behind afterward that theoretically would not have happened if they had done it much earlier in the pregnancy. And since that third procedure, when she had to lose an ovary, she had to lose a fallopian tube, she has not been able to become pregnant. And I understand if you're a right winger, this woman who wanted to get an abortion very begrudgingly because her fetus would never have been viable, okay, makes her a villain. I get that that's instantly what you will think. She has a child. She wanted to have more children. Because of their law, she might never have another child, okay? And she is not by any means the only woman that has experienced something like this. But this is what happens when you have a law like this. It happens in Tennessee, it's happened in Texas many times. And like in Texas, there are a number of women who've come together to try to fight back against these state laws. But that is going to be a massive battle that groups of individual women and organizations are gonna have to wage in states across the country until someday, hopefully, sense can come back to the Supreme Court. But what do you make of all this, Viviana?
You know, I stand behind that this is not something that you can legislate. The only thing you can legislate is it's the woman's right to choose. Because there's nothing like a mother's love. And I can't even fathom having to make that decision of being pregnant, being excited to bring this baby into the world, and then to find out this news and then to have to make that decision. Now, some people would want to carry the baby to term anyway and see what happens and leave it, into nature to see how it turns out, even though they know that the likelihood is, 100% they're not going to make it. But that should be their right too, if they want to do that. Just as much as it should be their right if they want to end the suffering of that child or prevent the suffering of that child. And only that person should be able to make that decision. And this is the problem. There's so many different variables. Every pregnancy is different. John, you yourself went through a pregnancy. I'm sure you guys had your own health stuff going on and your own fears. There's 9 months of worry there while you're protecting this unborn child. And so the heartbeat law, you can't legislate it like that. It just doesn't work like that. It is really a black and white issue. It's a woman's right to choose. Yeah. It's that pregnant person's right to choose, period. And I don't want to make that decision for that person because I would hate to make that decision. And all of these legislators that are standing on their laurels saying that they're right and they're doing the right thing, they are hurting people. And it's one way or another. What if you want to carry your baby to term and the doctor says, you know what, your baby's not going to make it. Your baby's going to be sick. It's going to have this, it's going to have that. And you want to do it anyway. What if they forced you to get rid of it? That's also wrong. So we cannot do this anymore. It is disgusting. Like you said, it's preventable. We know already what these laws are going to do to women's health and women's rights, and it is already happening. So I really sympathize with this family. I sympathize with all of the people who are in these states who are able to get pregnant and carry babies to term and who are being controlled like this. It's absolutely disgusting. It is horrible. We are an advanced nation that should not even be dealing with this. It's a very simple issue. It is the woman's right to choose, period. That's it. I don't care what the circumstances are. Don't come to me with these late-term abortions and all this stuff. Things happen. I don't want to be the one making the call, and I certainly don't want legislators making the call for me or anybody else in this planet, let alone this country.
I agree. For now, this is the law. Thankfully, people are fighting back. She apparently did not want initially to be a part of the case. She was worried about like suffering discrimination in terms of hiring and stuff. But she says, I can't back down and let them win this battle. And hopefully she'll get a lot of assistance, not just by
women are going to die, John.
Exactly, 100%.
People are dying. Families are going to be ruined because of these laws, because there's somebody that's, and they don't even care. You think Donald Trump cares about this, cares about children? And then the second these kids are born, they don't even care about them. So this is all just like political theater. And it's really abhorrent to do that to people's lives. And it's very sad for the future of this nation because, once you lose your right to have autonomy over your own body, it is a slippery slope. And Margaret Atwood, her fantasies took us to a real dark place, and it's not that far from reality.
Members make a difference here at TYT. You help make the show happen, and we see you in the chat with your loyalty badge. Click the join button to become a member today.